So, what happens when an AI makes a decision that affects you, your job, your finances, your future? What can you actually do about it? Well, a major piece of new law, the EU AI Act, has a really powerful answer. It's called Article 85. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this new right to complain means for you.
To really get why this matters so much, let's kick things off with a scenario. And look, this isn't some far-off hypothetical thing. This is happening right now, every single day, as AI gets baked into, well, pretty much everything.
Okay, so picture this. You are the perfect person for a job. You've got the skills, the experience, you got it all. But an algorithm, a system that's supposed to be totally objective, turns you down. And it's not because you're unqualified, but because the data it was trained on was just packed with old school biases. That right there is the frustrating reality of algorithmic bias in action.
But, and this is the important part, there's some really good news. To fight back against exactly this kind of injustice, the EU is giving you a powerful new tool. It's a specific right that's designed to make these often mysterious AI systems accountable. The easiest way to think about Article 85 is like a direct hotline to the regulators. It's the official way you can raise your hand and say, hey, I think this AI system is breaking the rules. And that single complaint can actually trigger a formal investigation. It's really the heart of how everyday people can enforce this new law. Now, how this article came to be is actually a pretty interesting story. It shows this real push and pull in the legislative process. At first, the parliament was all about the individual. You get a right, and you get to know what happens. But then, the council, which represents the member states, came in and said, hold on, let's broaden this to include businesses, but let's streamline it for efficiency. You can see this classic tension playing out, individual rights versus getting things done on a bigger scale. And this table here really spells out the final deal. On the one hand, they expanded who can complain, which is a huge win, right? Not just people, but also organizations. But the trade-off? They dropped that rule that said the authorities had to tell you what was happening with your complaint. Okay, so that's the backstory. We know how this right was born. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. How do you actually use it if you come across an AI that seems off? And what's great is that they've tried to make this process super straightforward. The goal is that you shouldn't have to be a lawyer to use it. It really just comes down to these three simple questions: who, what, and where. That word infringement sounds a bit legalish, doesn't it? But really, it's just a super broad catch-all term. It can mean anything from the really serious stuff, like a government using a prohibited AI, all the way down to a company just not providing the right paperwork for its high-risk system. So what exactly are these market surveillance authorities, or MSAs? Well, you can think of them as the official AI watchdogs in each EU country. They're the ones you send your complaint to, and they're the ones with the power to investigate and actually do something about it. All right, it's really important to remember that this new right doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's one piece of a much bigger legal puzzle. So let's take a look at how it connects with all the other protections you already have. You'll see this phrase at the beginning of the article, and trust me, it's a really big deal. Without prejudice to other remedies. All that means, in plain English, is that filing an AI Act complaint doesn't block you from using any other legal avenue. It's an extra tool in your toolbox, not a replacement for something else. Let's compare it to something we all know, the GDPR. A great way to think about the difference is to use a car analogy. An AI Act complaint is about the car itself. Is it built safely? Are the parts working correctly? Whereas a GDPR complaint is more about the driver. Did they misuse your personal data while driving the car? And here's the key. If the car is faulty and the driver was misusing your data, you can complain about both. And don't forget, this AI Act complaint is just one of many options. Let's say a medical AI gets your diagnosis wrong and causes harm. Well, that could be a product liability issue. Or what if an AI financial advisor gives you terrible advice and you lose all your money? That might be a case for national tort law. The point is, this new right is just one more important layer of protection. Okay, so we've covered the what, the how, and the where. Let's zoom out now and get to the really big question, the why. Why is this one little right to complain so incredibly important for the future of AI? Because really, this is so much more than just another line in a law book. It's about creating a critical feedback loop. It gives the people who are actually impacted by AI a way to raise a red flag when something isn't right. It takes accountability from being just a buzzword and turns it into a practical tool that gives you a voice and ultimately the power to make things better. Now, as we've seen, the final law is a compromise. It's this delicate balance between your individual right to be heard and the government's need to keep an eye on the entire market. The real question, though, is whether that balance will hold up as AI continues to evolve at lightning speed. It's something that might definitely need to be tweaked down the road.
And so that really brings us to our final big question. Having a right to complain is, without a doubt, a huge step in the right direction. But is it enough? The real test, the thing that will determine if this all works, is how it's enforced. Will these authorities have the resources they need? And will they actually use the complaints from people just like you to build a future where AI is genuinely trustworthy? That's what we'll have to wait and see.